Oh, literally as soon as I press record. Well, here's my kitten. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming my very late July reading wrap up. I read 13 books. First book, The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I read this book years ago and gave it a 5-star. Looking back, don't know what was going on up here because I gave it a 3. However, I think I would push more towards a 2. While this book initially I found hilarious, I thought it was funny, I thought it was interesting, witty, they actually are low-key super sketchy, and the relationship that they have with each other is super toxic, and I don't know why I was rooting for them. But I recommend this going forward? No, but there are other Christina Lauren books that I would recommend instead. Next up, I read Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I gave this one a 3. I was definitely thinking I gave this more of a 4-star, but I think 3 probably makes sense. So this is following Rue and Eli, and Rue and Eli met on this dating app. First time they do end up meeting, they realize that they had actually had a connection on this dating app, but when they meet, it is at a business event because their works are like coming together, if that makes sense. Like Eli's team is trying to take over Rue's company and like merge them. Ali Hazelwood has become an auto-buy author for me because I like the ideas that she has in her books, but I feel like the execution is just slightly missing every time. I was entertained with this whole plot because the idea of it is that they're sneaking around with each other, nobody can know because it could ruin business, all of that kind of thing. They're both kind of detached from like a romantic relationship, so all they want is something purely physical. So I did find this interesting. It was a new style of book that she hadn't written before. I think she even said this is like definitely more of an erotic romance. That's something to consider. However, I feel like all of her books end up going the same way, and they're all mostly STEM novels. So I love that she has her niche, but I wish that there was a slightly different outcome to these books because I feel like they are almost always identical to each other, and I would like to see something different. However, the whole secret relationship trope was pretty good. Next up, we have Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. This is the second book in the Lakefront Billionaire series. I loved the Dreamland Billionaire series, and I loved the first book in this series, which was Love Redesigned. This book, she's long, she's lengthy. These are long books. These are like 600 pages. So for a romance, this is long, especially because this is following a new couple. It's not like it's continuing, like this is all new stuff. 600 pages worth is a lot. However, I did give this book a 4-star. This is nanny type romance. She's a live-in nanny and he is a single dad. The dynamic between them is very like hard-headed. Normally I'm not a fan of nanny romances or single dad romances because I feel like they're all very similar, but I do remember what I'd said in a video about this when I was reading this for a vlog was that I really liked how the son in this book was actually like 8 years old, so he had a lot to say that was actually beneficial to the story. The pacing did throw me off a little bit, and that's why I gave it a 4 instead of a 5, despite how much I loved this book and the dynamic between the characters and the growth between them. I felt like the first half of this book was like generally a pretty solid pacing. However, I felt like when we got like almost to the end, it just started slowing down so much, and it was just kind of filler. And like while that was cute moments between the couple and the characters and all of that, it was cute to see, it just wasn't really important to the story at that point because it was just like, oh, let's just fill it up with cute stuff now, if that makes sense. I do still really recommend this book. It was so good, and if you're looking for a single dad nanny type romance, I would highly recommend this. Not to mention that the son is actually going through like his own issues, so I feel like there's a lot at stake and like secrets being kept because of that. Leather and Lark, I gave this a 5-star. This is another one that I'd read in that same video with Not in Love and Love Unwritten. Excuse my cat, she's playing. The first book in the series was Butcher and Blackbird. That one I think I gave a 4-star, and I was like so convinced that this was not gonna surpass that. However, I was proven wrong. This is following Lachlan and Lark. Lark is a singer, but she also is a killer that goes after guys who are groomers to prevent her family from being like caught up in this whole thing with like their enemies and rivals and whatever the situation is. She's like, Lachlan, we have to get married. Don't ask questions because I do not want to marry you. I do not like you, but we have to get married so that my grandmother and my family don't like shatter. They end up getting married, and this is the type of trope where arranged marriage, fake marriage, however, it is very much giving, don't touch her, that's my wife. That is something that I will always eat up every single time, even though fake marriage like sometimes usually isn't my thing. But you'll see I have another book in this video ready to go that I think it was done so well and I ate up. That's my wife. Fake marriage, protective husband. She also has just like this super glittery exterior, but she will beat some ass, and I love that for her. Sage! Oh my god, she came in with a toy in her mouth. Where did you even get that? I don't remember getting that for you. Oh, that's so sad though. She just brought me this in her mouth. I've never seen this in my life though. I don't know where this came from. Okay, Sage, you go over there now. The next book that I read was If I'm Being Honest. I think I also filmed a video for this one. This is following this high schooler who is basically a horrible person and bullies people. I give this like a 1 or a 2 star because I just could not see the vision here. Basically, she has a crush on this guy and he is saying, I'm not gonna be into you because you're a horrible person. She's trying to make herself better, but in my opinion, she still is failing miserably. And I felt like this was the most, like, frustrating character to deal with and listen to and try to defend. Like, girl, I was not defending her at all, actually. Like, I would look at the things she was saying and doing to people, like, had to put the book down and take a lap because I'm just like so shocked that there were people that reviewed this book that were actually saying like, oh no, she had like a good turnaround. She is the same filthy, dirty, rude, awful girl treating these people horribly throughout this book, and there was no change. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Next up, I have Bookish Life of Nina Hill. I was actually like 50 pages through this book for a while and then just stopped reading it, picked up other stuff, whatever. I got this from a free library. This is following this very like book-driven girl. She works at a bookstore, she does trivia, like she is the most book girl a book girl can get. And she finds out that her family, who she thought she had like no family at all, her dad's side of the family, she has this huge extended family and they're all reaching out to her when she thought she had nobody in her life. That was an interesting plot point. However, every chapter you are meeting a new character and then that character just never comes back. So it's like, why are we engaging in these conversations when they're not actually going to do anything to the story? I'm just like reading words on paper, but they don't mean anything. Like, why is this character here? They never came back. Flirting with her trivia nemesis, and she says on the back, does he not realize what a terrible idea that is, like getting to know her and all of that? But we never really find out why that's like a bad idea. They just get together and it's like, okay, the book's over now. I think I gave this a 2. Girl Serpent Thorn, I gave this a 3 star. This is a YA fantasy and it's about a princess cursed to be poisonous to the touch. To start out with this book, it is this mother who's telling her daughter all of these like fables and stories and all of that about this girl who basically cannot be seen by the public, cannot come into contact with anybody, and then turns out it is about the daughter and she later finds that out. This is giving very much Frozen vibes and I think it's classified on here as like Sleeping Beauty vibes, and I just don't really understand how that connects. When her choices lead to consequences she never imagined, she begins to question who she is and who she's becoming, a princess or a monster. That description of this book had me by the neck and I was like, this is gonna be so interesting. I felt like it was so slow. People were introduced that we never really got introductions to. It was just like, okay, this character's here now and you have to like pretend like you know who they are or why they're even in this story. I felt like there was a lot of unanswered questions, but I did like the idea of where the plot was going, so that's why it was a 3. Don't know if I would recommend this just because I feel like there was so much missing. And in a fantasy, I feel like it is so crucial for there to be like a good basis of knowledge given between the author and the reader to make sure that everything's making sense, because fantasies are already complex, whether or not they are like this crazy sci-fi novel or a YA fantasy. And I just felt like there wasn't enough information here to make it make sense. Reckless by Lauren Roberts. My most anticipated read of the year, and I will say I did give this a 5 star. I don't care. I know some people didn't love this book as much, like they liked seeing the characters and all of that. However, I know some people think that it was very slow pacing and just didn't take the turn they wanted for the book. However, I disagree. I understand the whole pacing idea, but I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed the interactions we got with the characters, and the ending threw me to a loop. Like, I'm someone who can never guess things and like these kinds of stories, so I didn't see it coming, but at the same time I wasn't really trying to dissect anything because I wanted to be surprised, and I felt like Lauren Roberts' writing just really does it for me. Everything is like so perfectly crafted, but also it does throw me for a loop, which I'm happy to say. But I love Kai. The dynamic between Peyton and Kai in this book, I feel like it is heartbreaking but also so interesting, and I just loved every second of this. I had to force myself to slow down reading it, so I didn't just read it in one sitting and then wish that I had taken a little longer and held on to the characters. The last physical book that I read was The Hawthorne Legacy, and all I'm going to say is that I just don't get the appeal with this series. I feel like everything in this series is very fast-paced but so slow at the same time, if that makes sense, where like, why is it drawn out between 3 different books and then there's like a 4th book following the brothers? Chapters go by so fast and then the chapters leave off on a cliffhanger, but then the cliffhanger like almost never gets answered. I just could not feel an attachment to this story, to these characters. I could not understand like why we even cared about dissecting in this at this point. I feel like this all could have been one book, like this whole series, just one book, and I felt like that would make my life so much easier. Burnout by Rebecca Genshak, and I gave this a 4-star, following a guy who does motorcycle racing and then this girl that is a gymnast, and he ends up getting in an accident. To better train him for these races, his friend suggests that he trains with the gymnast so that his muscles can strengthen and like all of that kind of stuff. If I'm being so honest, this book was like mostly just vibes. Like I don't really remember much of what was going on. I'm a biker girlfriend, so I approved. It was good, it was entertaining. A part of a series, this is the first book, and the rest of the series is going to be following the MMC's brothers. So I'm really excited to see that because you do get a really close view of his family and his brothers especially. I believe he's like the 2nd oldest sibling, 2nd oldest of like all of these brothers. I'm looking to see his cameos in the other books, but also like where the brothers end up going in their own stories. Next up, I read Play Along by Liz Tomford, and all of these books have been close to a 5-star but not quite there, and this one was a 5. I am obsessed with Isaiah, and that's also interesting because I'm not a baseball girl. Like I normally just like don't care about baseball, so seeing that this was a baseball romance, I liked seeing the fact that for once it felt like the sports was almost pushed to the side to like make room for the romance, which I feel like normally it's very sports heavy in her book. This is another fake marriage. They get married in Vegas. The MMC is like fully obsessed with the girl for years, and she's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'll get married for like convenience, and he is like fully obsessed. Like even if it's a fake marriage, he's like, whatever, I've got her. Like this is the girl I wanted for so long. Then it comes to the point where she ends up falling for him because of this forced marriage and the whole idea of like, I have a crush on my husband. I'm like, girl, Next up, I read Wonderstruck by Seraphina Chen, and I read this as an arc. I believe this book is out already. This book came out earlier in August. So this book is out for you guys to read. It's on Kindle Unlimited. I gave this a 3-star. It was super cute, fun, easy read. It's a high school romance. It's about Tyler and Serena. And Serena works at like this boba shop that Tyler goes to all the time, and he is a lacrosse player at her new high school. He's kind of the one person that's like showing her around, but that's also because she's tutoring him. But he makes sure that she's the one that's tutoring him because he sees her from afar and is like, I need this girl. I felt like this was a very cute read. It was fast-paced. I read this in one day. I would highly recommend if you need something cute, easy. Let me list off the tropes for you. Sunshine, sunshine, high school sweethearts, friends to lovers, brother's best friend, cheerleader to lacrosse player, coming of age, tutor romance? Is that a thing? I'll say it is. The last book that I read in July was Fall With Me in the Playing for Keeps series by Becca Mack. You guys know I'm obsessed with that series. I raved about it for so long. I was so excited for this book. I gave it a 3-star. The main reason is I just couldn't root for the guy. It's about Jackson and Lennon, and Lennon and Jackson have a one-night stand after she breaks off her engagement. I believe they aren't married yet, but she has this awful ex. She goes on the vacation anyway. Like, here's Jackson hooking up with this other girl, but he's the guy that like doesn't know any of the girls' names that he's hooking up with, and like the girls he is with, just like he does not give them the time of day, and it's honestly so disgusting. Like, I could not root for him as a person. And then seeing them get together and her being like this heartbroken girl just going to this guy who's like really not there, but then somehow just has this turnaround with like really no progress, I felt like was a little crazy. Would have liked to see more of a progression to him getting to be a better guy versus just being like, okay, I like this girl, so I'll just be a good guy now for this one girl, rather than just being a better person. Does that make sense? I gave it a 3-star. I liked seeing the cameos from the other characters, and I like the writing. Didn't love the characters in this one. Those were all of the books that I read in July. I would say my favorite: Reckless, Leather and Lark, Love Unwritten, Play Along. Those were the winners. Those were the ones that take the cake. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys when I see you.